So, JFK files. Still think Oswald did it? Still think he was the lone shooter? I don't think so. Listen, we're going to get to it though. So, you know how this goes. Question everything, especially now. And remember, this is for entertainment purposes only. Let's get to it.
So, have y'all read the JFK files yet? Do you know who assassinated John F. Kennedy? I do. It was us. It was our CIA. Let's read this together. The day after the assassination, Gary Underhill left Washington in a hurry. Late in the evening, he showed up at the home of friends in New Jersey. He was very agitated. A small clique within the CIA was responsible for the assassination, he confided, and he was afraid for his life and probably would have to leave the country. Less than 6 months later, Underhill was found shot to death in his Washington apartment. The coroner ruled it suicide. So now we have confirmation on something that we had already suspected. Our confirmation is that the CIA was the one who orchestrated the assassination on John F. Kennedy. And who had the most to gain from the assassination of John F. Kennedy? LBJ, Lyndon Baines Johnson. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments section. Follow, like, share.
Now, first of all, what are y'all's theories? Let's start there. Let's get some of y'all, because there's new people each time that's coming in when we're talking about this. So, who do y'all feel like? Do you feel like it was the mafia? Right? Do you feel like it was the mafia with his crackdown on crime and organized crime and all that stuff like that? Do you feel it was the CIA because they felt he was a threat to their operation? Right? What is your theory? We're going to start there. Lead with that as we get into everybody's thoughts as they sift through some of this stuff and this information. That information he just gave us, that just kind of confirms, because remember, Oswald was killed what, on the way to the jail a few days later? Odd, right? Interesting, right? And then for somebody to leave immediately, contemplate about leaving the country, say that, and then end up that way. If you believe in coincidences, then you'll believe that it's just a coincidence. But for most of us, nah, Captain, that ain't happening.
They were disbanded. They were the agency that was disbanded after the Bay of Pigs disaster in April of 1961. Mentioned this before, where under JFK, the U.S. tried to invade Cuba during the Cold War using humanitarian and foreign aid as a front to gather intel for that invasion. That bad intel that was gathered landed assets in a swamp, compounded with the fact that Kennedy denied air support that doomed the entire operation. That tension between the intel community and JFK was only made worse when Kennedy famously said this failure that would, quote, he would splinter the CIA into 1,000 pieces and scatter it to the winds. And 5 months later, he closed that agency, the ICA, which was seen as an attempt to hamper unaccountable covert operations. Guess what agency he started in its place? A little-known agency that was supposed to be more accountable to the State Department. That agency was called USAID. You see, prior to this, multiple agencies were using foreign assistance under their own agency cover to cover up their operations. The State Department, the CIA...
Do you see how... It's like they put it right in front of our faces. Do you see how this stuff is connected? How a lot of it is all a shell game, it's all a sham. They use that to infiltrate. They mask behind, oh, we're giving aid to farm. Like, what? This is crazy, because I automatically thought about USAID. I did, man. Oh.
CIA and tons of others, many using the ICA as cover while competing to see who could out-intel each other, often with massive overlaps. And there were tons of turf wars within our own agencies. USAID was supposed to be the answer to stream all the accountability on that through the State Department. It really had absolutely nothing to do with building wells in Africa. Trust me, it was a cover, okay? As a SEAL, I was in countries that we weren't at war with for humanitarian purposes too, okay? I know this.
But yet y'all want to say the conspiracy theory people are crazy. Who's crazy? Why? Because we see through the BS that y'all keep trying to feed us? No. Because we can see through the corruption and the cover-ups. That's what we see through. Nah.
Which gets me to the convenience of Lee Harvey Oswald. Now, the reasoning of Oswald being the lone actor was that he had met with Cuban officials in Mexico City before and this whole assassination then happened. The official reports allege that it was carried out as retaliation related to the Bay of Pigs. But was it? We know that LBJ and Kennedy had beef, which led to a variety of other theories, including allegations that LBJ was in on it, with people citing multiple reports what appeared to be LBJ ducking prior to the first shot even being fired. And one of the first things LBJ did as the president after the assassination, which raised even more concern, was to establish that Warren Commission I mentioned earlier to investigate it. And who led that? A little guy named Allen Dulles. Now, Allen Dulles had been the former CIA director that JFK had fired. There were also significant policy 180s, like the reversal on Vietnam, where Kennedy's intent was to withdraw from Vietnam, and then LBJ, when he took over, accelerated the war. Now, almost all of this is not new, and much of it the CIA was happy to release at the time. But what we're finding out from these recent docs last night is that the CIA, they were disbanded. They were the agency that was disbanded.
Oh, I need part 3. Where's part 3? I need part 3 of that one right there. He was going in.
As we are following breaking news out of the D.C. area, I want to head back live to Fairfax County, Virginia. This is a live look right here, and you can see that the photographer now panning in on a drone right outside this scene right here. This is a live look near a large police presence near the CIA headquarters. Right now, the photographer panning in on that drone right here. But take a look at this. This is just 2 blocks away from the CIA headquarters in Fairfax County, Virginia. You can see just how many police officers and vehicles are stationed there right now. A very large police presence, currently just 2 blocks away from CIA headquarters in McLean, Virginia. This is the very latest. As you can see, there does appear to be a SWAT team alongside county officials as they gear up along with other officials. A bomb squad, according to Fox 5 DC, also appears to be on the scene, although it is unconfirmed if there is a bomb in the area. There are reports also of a man outside the CIA building. This, of course, has raised concerns, and you're taking a live look at an armored vehicle, one of the tanks right there, used in SWAT situations for, of course, security purposes, lights flashing as it is gearing to drive down this road. This is a live look from about 2 blocks away from the CIA headquarters, a 2-block perimeter right here. And of course, traffic shut down in this area. We also wanted to share this alert from Fairfax County Police right here, as they have issued a traffic alert indicating that traffic has been shut down on Dolly Madison Boulevard in both directions between Georgetown Park and Seville Lane in McLean for a barricade incident. That is what police in Fairfax County are calling this, a barricade incident at the CIA headquarters. The Post also goes on to say that the Police Special Operations Division is on scene assisting. It also says, please follow police destruction. So another live look here at the scene.
Really interesting because first we have the files released. Now we got an incident at the CIA. Yeah. Now, part of me is like, I don't believe in coincidences. This is just rather odd that something like this is happening after the files was released. I'm looking at it very skeptical. And another part of me is like, yo, people are getting crazier and crazier. I have to protect mine. I have to make sure we all are protected, because it seems like people are they just don't care no more. They're at that point to where It just is what it is to them, and they ready to crash out. They ready to crash out, man. And that means we're in scary times. So part of me is like, the conspiracy theorist in me is like, really? After the files are released, something happens. But then the other part is like, these fools out here is getting crazier and crazier, man. They're tired, fed up, and they're just crashing out.
2 blocks away. This is a live look from 2 blocks away as SWAT team members and police have established a perimeter around the CIA headquarters. We do know that Fox 5 DC is on the scene gathering details of this breaking news.
So he ended up opening fire outside of the headquarters. This is what I'm saying, y'all. This is what I'm saying. People they just don't, they're at that point. It's like how you push people to a breaking point. They're at their breaking point with everything that's going on, man. We're in some scary times, seriously.
I find it very odd how no one is talking about how there was a standoff between a gunman and police at the CIA headquarters yesterday. You heard that right. There was an hour-long standoff with someone who barricaded themselves inside of the CIA headquarters who was armed, and no one's saying anything about it. Even weirder is this happened right at the same time as the JFK files were released, and we know what the CIA is known for in those. Now, this happened in McLean, Virginia, and there was a massive bomb squad that had been called out as part of the massive alleged police response. This has to be someone who worked for the CIA, because how did you get a gun inside the CIA headquarters? Now, that person did surrender after whatever negotiations were met that they wanted, and he is in custody. I just feel like this has something to do with that man wanting to keep his job, with the massive amount of layoffs that are coming for the CIA, FBI, and every other division in the government. But my thing is, why did he barricade himself in there, and what the does he know? Because you're not going to let me believe that this man decided to risk his life. I mean, barricading yourself inside the CIA headquarters with all those people in there, you probably have bigger plans on your hand, okay? So, yeah, this happened yesterday. No one's talking about it. Just thought I might let you know.
What's up, guys? This is Knox. If this is my first time coming across your For You page, hola. This JFK CIA document dump is good stuff. Good stuff. It doesn't spell out by any means like who did the killing or anything. It's not like that direct, but it is showing all the different stuff that those of us who are paying attention knew that the CIA was doing, knew that the FBI was doing, knew that the sort of deep state, whatever you want to call it, was doing. We knew this. It was obvious, but having it spelled out in plain English that you can sort of just reference these documents and be like, oh, yeah, in case you were wondering, like, the CIA has been doing biological warfare, has been doing Epstein-style blackmail since the 60s and 70s, probably before that. They were working directly with the mob. The mob was planning assets. It's just, it's all spelt out. There's like 30,000 or...
And see, that's the part I was speaking of earlier. With the theories of them working with the mob already feeling some type of way about JFK and what he was doing with cracking down on organized crime. But they're working with the CIA though, right? Interesting. 2 people or 2 organizations, common goal. Somebody who's getting in their way. JFK.
Or 80,000 documents coming out, like individual papers. And I'm terminally online, so you don't have to be. I'm on the dark web all the time, so you don't have to be. And I'm just gonna keep sort of updating as things come across. Right now, the best information that I've gotten is somebody who fed the documents into an AI so that the AI could come up with a quick response, but a thorough response to it. But you've got like top tier autists looking through all of these files, and they're making more connections than anyone else ever could, really. And it's all painting this picture of like, our reality is so manipulated. We are so pumped with propaganda. I love the people who think like, oh yeah, China, Russia, they have propaganda for sure. America, no man, we're the land of the free. Like, America is the perfect example of a prison that is run and operated by the inmates. They really have like convinced us of our freedom, and that is the ultimate trick there. It's like the Matrix, you know what I mean? You have to believe that you're free to participate. And if you think you're not, then you start bucking and kicking back. But if you think like, oh no, this isn't my prison, this is my home, it gets a lot simpler. It gets a lot easier for the people trying to control stuff. I don't want to like come off the deep end here, but it's pretty obvious, like all the major events, like the one that is the emergency phone number. It was Israel. It was Israel. It was Israel. Nobody, there's no denying it anymore. Those kind of things where we've just been completely misled, completely driven into places that none of us wanted to be. Our culture has been flipped upside down, and we just love Big Daddy government coming in and saving us whenever we get scared. But like I said in a previous video, there are people who are like not just passively trying to fight against this anymore. There are people, including myself, that are actively forming groups, networks, our own assets, that are taking us out of their control as much as possible, but then also, you know, trying to run interference on their interference that they're running on us. Again, anybody interested in this, talk to me. There's always use for more people, and there are real, actual things that you can do today, tomorrow, that not only will help the world around you, but give some serious meaning to your life. Don't give up. Don't give up the fight. We're still here. We're still alive. And more so than anything, we've got God on our side. We've got like the...
Now he said something pretty interesting, right? Feeding the information into, or the files into an AI system, and letting AI comb through it and give us the notes, or we can type in and ask it questions and it can answer us and stuff like that. So that's smart right there. That's, matter of fact, I'm finna try to see if I can find somebody who's currently doing that and see what information they've got so far.
JFK files. So Israel was one of the things they wanted to have redacted, huh? I guess they didn't want the American public to ask why Israel would even be in the JFK assassination files. Well, maybe it's because he tried to tell Israel to register, AIPAC rather, to register as a foreign agent, and they didn't like that. And he was trying to prevent them from stealing our nuclear secrets. People, Israel's just a corrupt government, just like the rest of them. They have an intelligence service. It's called Mossad, and they had an open line to the CIA during that time and all the way up to the present. And all of our Congress people, they're either dual citizens, which means they can, you know, easily do a hop, skip, and a jump and prosecute.
Exactly. So they can just go when things hits the fan. When things hit the fan, they can just haul out. Yeah. I believe that same thing too.
Ever come against them, right? Because Israel give them safe harbor. They've been paying them off with all of our money for, you know, forever. But anywho, that's one of the things they wanted to keep hidden from us, that Israel had any part to play in it. And, you know, now we see the whole Iranian thing, you know, popping up, Israel going into Gaza, and we've been, you know, giving them a lot of money for a long, long time. And they're just another corrupt government, all right? Take the religion out of it, for God's sake. Just remember, it's just a corrupt government. That's it. You can just stop there. It does no good to talk about the religious aspect when you can just win more people over to your side of the argument to say, hey, we probably shouldn't be sending money to these people because, you know, they've been involved in a lot of shady. Can't we just do that?
All right, JFK Files released, part 3. We have a very interesting memo dictated by J. Edgar Hoover, the FBI director, and this was done on November 24th, 1963, shortly after Jack Ruby fatally shot Lee Harvey Oswald. In this, he says, and I want to get this correct, there's nothing further on the Oswald case except that he is dead. In the memo, he expresses anxiety that the killing of the assassin might spur doubts among the Americans. And he says, the thing I am concerned about, and so is Mr. Katzenbach, is having something issued so that we can convince the public that Oswald is the real assassin. He goes on to call the killing of Oswald inexcusable and hints at Ruby's mob connections, which would soon spawn an industry of research and speculation. We have no information on Ruby that is firm, although there are some rumors of underworld activity in Chicago, the memo continues. 3 years later, Mr. Hoover sends another memo to the White House summarizing information on the FBI's files about how the Soviet government responded to Kennedy's death. One passage notes, I want to get this correct, that President Lyndon B. Johnson was virtually unknown to Soviet leaders and that their intelligence agencies suspected his involvement in the assassination. All right, JFK Files released, part 3.
Good old LBJ, right? Good old Lyndon B. Johnson. Name still swarms around this whole situation, man. And that's the thing. You look over here at the CIA, then you look over here at Lyndon B. Johnson, then you gaze back over here at the mafia. You like, where do you go? You know? And the fact that it's been so long makes it even harder now to try to draw up a conclusion of what we think happened. We have our theories, of course, but it possibly leading to the truth today, it could happen, but I'm not going to get my hopes up for it. You know what I mean? Like, they could be spinning us all different ways right now with this information that's been released. So you have to keep that in the back of your mind as well.
It has been a few days since the JFK files were released. I've scoured through 3/4 of the files so far. I am incredibly...
Bro, have you slept? 3/4 of the files? You haven't slept in days then. There's no way. There's no way I would be able to do 3/4. No way.
Disheartened in the United States government. In those documents was not the name of the actual shooter of JFK. The U.S. government, in this new release of JFK files, is trying to make us believe that it was Lee Harvey Oswald that deleted JFK. They're trying to do it by expanding on the information they had about his whereabouts and what he was doing in the Soviet Union, or his connections with the Cubans. The problem is that it was not physically possible for Lee Harvey Oswald to have done what he did. One, the trajectory does not line up, and 2, the ballistics does not line up. When JFK's head goes back, okay, that means that something from the front is firing at him. Lee Harvey Oswald was back and to the right, so if he would have been making the shot, where should JFK's head have gone? Down and to the left. What are American citizens supposed to do to be able to get the truth out of the U.S. government about who actually deleted JFK? It has been a few days since the JFK files.
We have to continue doing what we have to do. We have to get the information. We have to continue to find the information ourselves. Us taking any information that they give us is, it's doomed to try to push us in the direction that they want us to go, basically. So we have to continue to find our own information, make our own assumptions and theories about what we believe that happened, take the evidence that we know, that we have our hands on, that the information we've gathered, and formulate our own conclusions. We have to at this point, because if we think they're going to tell us the truth, we're sadly mistaken. Sadly mistaken. Like, and all we want is the truth.
It's finally here, what conspiracy theorists and historians alike have been waiting for 60 years. The release of the unredacted, highly anticipated JFK assassination file.
There's really no bombshell here. There was no one else behind Lee Oswald, from any of the evidence we see at this point, helping him accomplish this.
Trump made the document dump one of his campaign promises.
A lot of people are waiting for this for years.
Just days after taking office, he signed the executive order calling for the release, along with the government's files on the assassinations of RFK and MLK Jr.
It's going to be released tomorrow. We have a tremendous amount of paper. You've got a lot of reading.
There really isn't that much new, at least in the part that we have examined so far. But we have learned quite a bit about the CIA.
The new information is not about the assassination itself, but reveals sources and methods, including names and personal information of CIA operatives and contacts, and espionage tactics of the 1960s. One of the files, known as the Schlesinger memo, showing some of Kennedy's closest aides did not trust the CIA and were skeptical of its motives. Another showing the CIA was wiretapping Soviet and Cuban telephones at their diplomatic facilities in Mexico City, locations Lee Harvey Oswald visited in the months before the assassination. The release also including the personal information of people still living, including social security numbers of former congressional staffers.
Even 60 years later, there's this whole aura of glamour around the Kennedys, around the president and his wife and his young family, and what it represented for America at the time. It was a revival, essentially, of the youthful spirit of the country.
From JFK's charisma as the youngest man ever elected president.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
To his wife Jackie's iconic style and grace.
Mrs. John F. Kennedy, looking happy and radiant.
To his alleged secret affair with Marilyn Monroe. To the horrifying assassination that played out on television on November 22nd, 1963.
President Kennedy has been assassinated. It's official now. The president is dead.
The famous amateur home movie, filmed by Abraham Zapruder, capturing the moment. President Kennedy seemingly hit twice, slumping forward, then suddenly jerked backwards. The First Lady...
Remember, hit twice. Oswald didn't have time enough to reload, but he was hit twice.
Leaning over him, then climbing toward the back of the car, Nat Geo spoke with that agent, Clint Hill.
Mrs. Kennedy was screaming. They've shot his head off.
Until his death last month, he remained haunted by Kennedy's death.
I should have been able to do more than I did. I wasn't fast enough.
The First Lady boarded Air Force One with Vice President Lyndon B. Johnson, still wearing her blood-stained pink suit, as Johnson was sworn in as president. My colleague Deborah Roberts speaking with one of Jackie's biographers.
Jackie did not want to take the outfit off. She wore it for many, many, many hours after, and the stockings were covered with blood, and was blood on the pink dress and on the jacket. It was because that's what she had left of Jack. I think that the trauma of PTSD colored everything in her life. She felt like the least she could do was mourn him forever.
Law enforcement quickly arrested Lee Harvey Oswald, a 24-year-old former U.S. Marine, a known communist sympathizer. Police say Oswald shot Kennedy from the 6th floor of the Texas School Book Depository, then fled.
The conspiracy theories started flowering right away. One, it was such a shock, such a horror to the country's heart and mind that the notion it could have been perpetrated by this rat-faced little loner loser, it just didn't equate. It didn't add up. They wanted it to mean something bigger.
Oliver Stone's 1991 movie JFK really brought the notion of a conspiracy around the death of John F. Kennedy into popular culture. And that gave rise to this notion that there could have been more than a lone gunman.
The film starred Kevin Costner as Jim Garrison, the New Orleans district attorney who claimed there was a conspiracy to kill Kennedy.
This was a military-style ambush from start to finish. This was a coup d'etat with Lyndon Johnson waiting in the wings.
The film explores the controversial theory that Lee Harvey Oswald was a scapegoat, something his own brother disagreed with.
I'm absolutely convinced that Lee did it alone.
I would say that without doubt.
Sound like somebody got paid. Sound like the check cleared for somebody. Huh? Yeah. He acted alone. Yeah, okay. Oh, okay, buddy. You know? Let us know you got paid without letting us know you got paid.
In my opinion, it's impossible for Oswald to have killed Kennedy alone. I also believe that elements of the government are the only ones possible to have arranged a coup of this size and of this magnitude.
The film also looks at the so-called single bullet or magic bullet theory, that only one bullet killed both Kennedy and the Texas governor, who sat in the front seat.
Cyril Wecht is a top forensic pathologist and expert, and he says never before in the history of gunfire has there been a bullet like this that has behaved like this.
In the aftermath of Kennedy's death, the family became even more famous. Jackie Kennedy coining the term Camelot when referring to the optimistic and idealized image of the Kennedy administration.
I think Camelot in some ways represents the very best of American values. John F. Kennedy was trying to get us to think about something greater than ourselves, about having a purpose in what we do.
But there was also the so-called Kennedy curse. JFK's younger brother, Robert, assassinated 5 years later as he ran for president. JFK's only son, often having to answer the question of whether he'd follow in his father's footsteps. He spoke with Barbara Walters about it.
Do you have any desire for politics, or is that something in your own head you ruled out?
No, I don't rule out anything. Public service should be something that you bring wholly yourself to. And I have sort of a life to live before I want to think about that.
He, too, died young in a small plane crash in 1999 at age 38, alongside his wife, Carolyn Bessette Kennedy, and her sister, Lauren. The family remains in the spotlight to this day. JFK's great-nephew, Patrick Schwarzenegger, turning heads in this season of HBO's White Lotus.
I mean, I know I tell you this all the time, Dad, but I love working.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. now leads the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, nominated by Donald Trump.
He is now serving in the Republican administration of Donald Trump. It's caused a rift in the family, some of his views and actions, and I think it's changed the picture of the Kennedy family a little bit.
RFK Jr. has supported the document release, telling the NBC affiliate in May.
I think it's a great move because we need to have more transparency in our government, and he's keeping his promise to have the government tell the truth to the American people about.
Do we though? Is this what this is? That's what this is? More transparency? Does anybody believe that? I don't think we do. I don't think we do. Not, and this energy isn't towards RFK, because I like what he's doing with the food industry or what he's attempting to do. Well, it all remains to be seen what ends up happening, but I like the direction he's trying to go in. So this isn't energy towards him, but truth and transparency is something we rarely get from them. So that's what has us skeptical about these files, even though they saying we got the redacted files. But listen, it's hard for us to believe that.
About everything.
The Kennedys have largely stayed silent since the announcement, minus JFK's only grandson, Jack Schlossberg, criticizing the media, posting this video to Instagram yesterday.
This is so stupid. There's so much actual news going on. Why are you covering this? At least report that something happened.
It's important to remember this is a human event. And for the Kennedy family, it's a family catastrophe, a family tragedy.
There are still thousands of documents that have yet to be released.
There are 80,000 papers that we need to go through, so it will take weeks or months to put all these dots together in some coherent fashion. As it stands, there is, again, no great revelation that we have seen, and I'm not sure that there will be.